That was nasty.
Maybe it is. Who knows? Did he wear number 66? We got to get on that. That was great. I was a little disappointed my man Jetty wasn't the first to congratulate him this time. Oh, look at the Raptors. Oh, look at the Raptors. Devastation.
Yeah, the Raptors. Cleveland's not in their head. LeBron's in their head.
Cece, when you talk about how you can never recapture what it is to be a pro athlete, I would imagine a lot of it is this. The ability to get 20,000 plus people to stand and roar. In your case, 80,000, because football stadiums are bigger. Like, no job in the world do you have that type of power over that large group of people, right? Like,
yeah, it's totally different. Now I come home to my apartment, little Sue's running down the hallway.
Right. It's one person you know and are married to as opposed to 20,000 strangers.
It's a tough transition. Carlos Boozer, we talked about it too, man. The roar of the crowd, that's a real thing. There's no life after playing professional sports.
And to think, just real quick, with 30 seconds left in that game against Indiana, Game 5, when LeBron had the turnover on the baseline, there was a real chance that would be the last game he ever played in Cleveland as a Cat. Since then, he's hit 2 walk-offs for him, won a game, hit a game winner for him. He's going to keep playing more home games.
Hit 2 walk-offs and then going to walk off.
Eventually.
Guys,
Eventually.
when
You got another
played
about month.
my last year of high school volleyball.
No, don't do this. That's why they did this.
Oh, okay.
That's why they did this.
I'll tell you guys later.
Okay.
Time for some stories to start your morning. Boy, they all jumped up. It was like 8 people. The Yankees picked up another win yesterday. Boy, they've been playing. What a stretch. 15-1 in their last 16 games. Just a game back of the Red Sox. Imagine how well Boston's playing. They beat Cleveland 7-4 behind rookie second baseman Gleyber Torres. Walk-off home run. How about this? Torres, the youngest Yankees player ever to hit a walk-off home run. Yankees aren't setting records that often. CC, how have the Yankees been getting it done?
Every imaginable way.
Yep.
Walk-offs, pitching, hitting, lack of hitting, scrappy, playing defense, boom, making good moves as a manager. Man, they have done everything possible. But Didi told us, man, when the weather changes, man, they started hitting the baseball. And then the hitting is what really was the catalyst to get everything else going there.
In this stretch, by the way, which started right at our researcher, Dusty, with the Yankees are one of his 5 favorite baseball teams, on his birthday, they lead all of baseball in runs scored, and they're second in the American League in batting average allowed. So when you're pitching as well as anyone in your league, you're scoring better than everyone in baseball. That's how you win 15 out of 16 games.
So that's the way you end up talking about Dusty's birthday, is by putting him in the highlight of the Yankees?
Yeah.
We haven't talked about the Yankees in 2 weeks. We throw Dusty in there?
I'm just letting you know that
he ain't even a member of the full staff. Like, for real?
Okay, well, I was trying to help him out.
You don't even need Stanton to hit a home run.
No.
The Yankees are playing that well because he's not. On to the NFL. Shaquem Griffin's road to making the Seahawks roster has begun. Over the weekend, Griffin participated in Seattle's rookie minicamp. Head coach Pete Carroll says they'll try him at weak side linebacker first. CC, what position do you think fits Shaq's skill set the best?
I think in the basic defense, he can play the weak side linebacker role. What's the skill set for a weak linebacker? One of the greatest has ever done. His name is Derek Brooks. He plays in space. He plays very fast. He's kind of like a bigger defensive back, but his football recognition has to be on point. He plays close to the boundary, so he doesn't have to defend a lot of space. And if you run to the field, his speed. You don't have a tight end there, so he's not a liability in pass coverage. And I believe off the edge in nickel situation, having him rush the passer with that speed.
This is exactly what you said they had to do with him. That he couldn't play. I know you know. I know you know football. That he can't play safety. Like, it's just going to be too much of a liability due to his lack of a hand. But if you can use his speed and his aggression in situational packages to rush the quarterback. There was one other interesting quote from Pete Carroll where he said I met with Shaq, told Shaq, listen, this is a great story. You got a lot of people pulling on you. Need you to focus on football now. And then the first practice after that, he had to pull Shaq aside and said, all right, I need you to slow down a little bit, though. Going a little too hard already. So all positive signs for Shaq Griffin as he tries to make this football team.
And he should be a weapon on the new kickoff rules where they're not letting you get a running head start. The guy that has pure speed like him should be a tremendous asset to your kickoff team.
All right, back to basketball now. On to the Warriors, who looked golden yesterday. They beat the Pellies by 26 points to take a commanding 3-1 series lead there. Kevin Durant was in the zone, dropping 38 points. His teammate, Andre Iguodala, he was next to the zone. He said KD kind of reminded him of MJ. CC, what impressed you most about KD's performance yesterday?
Oh, he put on a clinic yesterday. It's a matter, okay, I'm going to take 2 bounces, hey kids, and I'm going to jump straight up vertical. I'm going to get to the apex of my jump, and I'm going to release my jump shot with the ball above my head. Like a basketball clinic. Hey kids, I'm going to take 2 dribbles to my right. I'm going to do the same exact thing I did to my left. You can do that on 6'10" players, which he did on the Brow. You can do it on Drew Holiday, a smaller player. But because his three-point shot wasn't going, he decided that mid-range game, which is a lost art, Kevin Durant has that, man, and he utilized it yesterday.
I disagree with CC that Kevin Durant is the most deadly offensive force in the game. But when he's hitting this shot, he absolutely is. Like, I don't think he hits it at quite the consistent level to be the most deadly. I don't even know if he's the most deadly on his team. But when he's locked in, there's no guarding him. There's nothing you can do. No one's tall enough. No one that can keep up with him is tall enough except for maybe Giannis. And they're not going to have to face Giannis maybe ever because the Bucks don't look like they're ever coming close to the finals. So, like, there was just nothing they could do. I mean, I think in Game 5 you got to put Anthony Davis on him to give yourself a shot. But you're right. In the second half when they tried that, he was shooting over Anthony Davis. There was nothing you could do with him yesterday. He was extraordinary.
Last night, James Harden and Chris Paul combined for 51 points to give the Rockets a 3-1 series lead over the Jazz. Houston can close out the series on Tuesday. Nick, how impressive was Houston last night?
This whole weekend, man, they had to. They couldn't just steal home court back. Winning one in Utah steals home court back, but if they only win one in Utah, then your 65-game season, 65-win season comes down to a best of 3. And funny things can happen when you get down to a best of 3. They needed to win both of these games. That's the price they paid for playing poorly in Game 2 and not winning that home game. And they did it. And they did it yesterday through defense. They haven't had one of those lights-out shooting nights since Game 1 of this season.
No, haven't shot in the ball as well as we expected them to shoot the basketball.
Right. Game 1, they hit 17 threes. Since then, they've hit 10, 11, 10. And we talked about how bad their record was when they had 11 or fewer threes this year in comparison to everything else. They won both these games in Utah against, by the way, a crowd that's unlike any crowd I've ever seen in sports. In Game 3, Utah was down 27 points, and the crowd was louder than the Houston home crowd is when the Rockets are up 10. Every time Utah cut it to 23, the crowd was like, here we go.
Right.
Like, so the crowd tried to give them every lift they could, and Houston just out-executed
They made a public
games.
service announcement. They get down by 30, they were serving liquor in Utah. They was like, let's go. I can get a drink for the first time.
I mean, they were great, see.
We won't talk about it enough, but Houston, what makes them different, not only having Chris Paul there, the ability to, they can close out games a different way, Capella emerging as a star, also a defensive force, but defensively, how well they play basketball. I mean, how many games you going to lose when you give up 87 points? That's how many they gave up yesterday.
Yeah.
How many games you going to lose giving up 92 points? That's how many they gave up on Friday. So when you're talking about one of the most explosive teams, we talked about them 2 seasons ago, Nick. They were 26th in points per game. Points allowed. And this year they were 6th. Now, you're talking about a drastic jump. It's not only the personnel. It's not only Chris Paul. It's not only P.J. Tucker. But their overall mentality as a team has changed.
And they're deflating that big playoff bubble that people had blown up for them, that they just keep collapsing in the postseason.
One note on that. I thought Chris Paul said something very interesting after the game last night. Because Chris Paul, in this round against Houston, oddly enough, 3 years ago, was up 3-1, and the Clippers blew it. So he was asked about, being up 3-1, getting ready for the Western Conference Finals after the game on the court. He said, man, I've been up 3-1 before, and that bleep didn't go so well for me. The series isn't over. They know the value of closing out in 5, by the way. Close out in 5. You don't have to go back to Utah, and you will likely get the same amount of rest as Golden State, who likely will close theirs out in 5 as well.
Maybe we'll see you later. Did you see the outfit that James Harden wore to the game?
It wasn't like the outfit the week before.
No, he wasn't wearing shorts.
It was good, though.
But it was definitely flashy.
You'd like it,
I'm going to call it up. I think, I said, I think CC would like an outfit like this.
I think I've seen it.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the Celtics-Sixers game. The one featuring a young, fully healthy Philly team with their 2 big stars going up against a young, fully unhealthy Boston team without their 2 big stars. So it comes as a big surprise that the Celtics are up 3-0 in this series. Important to know, no team has come back from down 0-3 to best of 7. Is that right, Nick?
Correct, absolutely.
So
only in hockey.
Sixers, definitely, and we're not talking hockey.
And the Red Sox over the Yankees. My bad. Go ahead.
Today. So the Sixers definitely have their unprecedented work cut out for them. Here's Joel Embiid on the Game 3 loss.
We sucked to lose this way. I felt like we had control of the whole game, especially when we made that run at the end of the first half. We felt really good, but you know, we made a couple mistakes at the end, and it wasn't good on our part.
CC, what happened here? What went so wrong for the 76ers?
Well, one, I mentioned before, Brett Brown, the head coach, I don't believe is doing a good job in this series. There have been situations where I believe he didn't handle them the right way. Out of bounds calls, lack of timeouts, lack of getting guys organized, that he has played a part in every loss that they've had. Turn the ball over. Philadelphia did that during the regular season. It's cropped back up in critical situation. Them not being able to end, Ben Simmons, supposed to be their best passer, can't end the ball, inbounds the ball to Joel Embiid, who's supposed to be their best player. You got your two best franchise player. All we need to do is throw the ball inbounds, out of the side, out of bounds. Ben, a little lax, a little young, tries to throw a lazy one-handed pass that gets intercepted by Al Horford. Their inability, J.J. Redick, late in the game, he's the one guy got some experience. Him not knowing what to do. The play set, they give him the ball 35 feet away from the bucket.
That was hard.
Yeah, what are you giving him the ball way out there for? So I've seen enough things between the players and the coaches that you can spread this around. You can't say it's on one players. Collectively, this has been a bad 3 games for them.
All right, I know you can't say it's on one player, but I'm going to back up a bit. CC, talk your talk on Ben Simmons. This was your concern with Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons still, over the course of the year, I believe deserved Rookie of the Year, but you had big concerns about anyone that refuses to shoot outside of 5 feet in a playoff series.
Yeah, and he can't shoot. You can't shoot. When a team starts to lock you down from a game plan, they know your strengths and your weaknesses. It's very similar to what Dallas did in 2011 to LeBron James. And LeBron was such a better player. LeBron let it get in his head. Ben Simmons knows he can't shoot outside of 5 feet. But what it does with them playing the three-point line, that the lanes are there for him. He's got to be more aggressive on the offensive end. And this offseason, he's got to get at least expand to 8 feet, 10 feet. You can't be a star player and not be able to shoot the ball effectively outside of 5 feet.
Listen, everyone was ready to give this guy the league. And I love Ben Simmons. And I think his potential, I do think he's one of 3 active young players, him, Embiid, Giannis, are the 3 active young players who I believe have best player in the league potential. And that is a hard belt to earn. But
in doing that, you're just assuming, you're putting a lot of blind faith that he's going to be able to shoot the basketball.
Right. And by the way, to become that, he doesn't even have to become a great shooter. If he just becomes an average shooter, I think the rest of his skills and being a 6'10" point guard. But what he can't be is the worst shooter in the league that isn't a center. And that's what he's been in this series. And where Brad Stevens gets credit is where all year long, they've now played Philly 7 times. Ben Simmons has a negative rating, plus minus, in all 7 games. This is the first time all season for him. He's had negative rating in 3 consecutive games. And there was also a mental error by him that's not a turnover. Late in the game, you're up 1 in overtime. You get an offensive rebound with 20 seconds left. All you have to do there is hold on to the ball. Forget the fact that Philly's not even in the bonus. So if you're afraid of shooting free throws, you're not going to shoot free throws. What you can't do is put up a short arm floater. You're up 1. They're going to have to foul you. Like, that was the most critical error they made aside from the Redick turnover.
A lot of people are saying, well, he shot it because he didn't want the people to foul him. I don't think he's played in enough big games. I don't think he has the basketball IQ to be able to think that fast in real time. The way he grabbed that rebound, your brain does not transfer information that fast. So for me, it was just a bad basketball play by a younger player who just happens to not be able to shoot free throws. But we have to be able to spread that blame around. Brett Brown, we talked about him. We talked about Ben Simmons. But Joel Embiid, in the Miami series, he averaged 9 fouls per game on the opposition.
Drawing 9 fouls per game.
Yes, drawing 9 fouls from the opposition. In this, Horford, in 41 minutes in the game on Saturday, 0 fouls. He's only got 4 fouls in the 3 games that they've played. So Joel Embiid, what he was doing and was very, very effective in the first series, hadn't been able to do that to the level that he was doing it the first round.
I think the thing we saw and the way the Sixers were going were this team was going to play as Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid plays. They were going to go as these two superstars went, and it was working. I mean, they were electrifying, and as soon as Joel Embiid came back into the lineup, the two of them were playing great. It's not the same thing for the Celtics. They didn't have one or two or three guys that just stood out so much that were going to carry and lead the team, and you saw what happens when Ben Simmons stopped playing well, and you need more than 20, 22 points from Joel Embiid every night.
And those shots they were taking against Miami by Bellinelli and Ilyasova and at times Redick that were, objectively speaking, awful shots, but they were going in. Now in this series, just look like awful shots. And Joel Embiid, listen, I might have been too early on both these guys. I still have amazing hopes for their potential and what they will become. But I said going into this series, they have 2 of the 20 best players in the league right now. Ben Simmons has been nowhere close, and Embiid's been getting his lunch eaten by Al Horford. Like, that can't happen. It just flatly cannot happen. And now you do wonder Philly is feeling great. They won 20 of 21. Now they got punched in the mouth those first 2 games in Boston. They have not recovered. And now they're done. Like, I think they can win game 4, but they're done. Like, their season's over.
Yeah, they had this game under control, too. There's no excuse for them to lose this game at home.
Would you look at the Sixers season once they lose, if they lose here, and say this was still a success for them?
You just have to be real about it. When you look at the injuries and where Joel Embiid came from, Ben Simmons, you got to look at the totality of it. He's going to be Rookie of the Year. No, it's not a failure. They have done well. Those players are still developing. We didn't know Joel Embiid can play back-to-backs. Wow, we didn't know that he was going to be as effective as he is. We know that. Also, the role players, they can still grow this roster. When we start talking about the early LeBron, pre-LeBron, like, they should be in the LeBron sweepstakes because this is not a finished team. Regardless of what happens against the Celtics, you can have a great deal of success, measurable success that you can look at.
This season's an enormous success for them. However, this is the worst team for them to lose to. If they could pick any team that's going to end their season, they lose in second round Toronto, no problem. Cleveland, no problem. If they've been upset by Miami, you deal with it. But when you're playing, when we look at the Eastern Conference, let's assume LeBron goes to the West. Let's just take LeBron out of it. You say, what are the 2 teams in the next decade in the East? Philly and Boston. If Boston beats you handily without their best player and their second best player, and they have more draft capital than you moving forward, that's going to leave a tough taste in your mouth for the offseason. So a huge success, but the worst possible ending to it, given who their opponent is this round.
All right, we're going to take a break. Coming up, why is Big Ben taking shots at his new teammates? Next on First Things First.
Maybe because he's not that good of a guy. Just what I hear.
Brazil was broken.